In a world that prides itself on progress and inclusion, the shadows of prejudice and injustice can still linger, even in the most surprising places. Today, I'll share with you the incredible story of Adam J., a self-made millionaire who turned a moment of discrimination into a powerful lesson on empathy and change. It's a tale of resilience, moral courage, and the transformative power of treating others with dignity. Imagine walking into your own business only to witness the kind of bigotry you've fought against your entire life. Instead of reacting with anger, Adam chose a path that not only exposed prejudice, but also sought to heal it. This story will inspire you to reflect on how we can all play a role in creating a more just and compassionate world. Before we dive into this remarkable journey, I invite you to subscribe to this channel if you feel connected to stories that celebrate love, empathy, and the triumph of human decency. And while you're here, let's engage in a meaningful conversation. Leave a comment below with an inspiring phrase that aligns with this message. For example, I choose respect and empathy in every interaction. Let's inspire one another with our words. Now let's step into the world of Adam J. and begin this journey of discovery and transformation. Adam J. grew up in a modest neighborhood, surrounded by the constant hum of aspirations. From a young age, he watched his parents work tirelessly to provide for the family, instilling in him a profound work ethic and an unshakable belief in the value of perseverance. Adam's mother often said, "When you walk a mile in another person's shoes, you learn the worth of their journey." These words became the cornerstone of his character. In his early 20s, Adam ventured into the world of business with little more than ambition and an idea. Over the years, through hard work, sleepless nights, and countless setbacks, he built an empire. His luxury retail chain became synonymous with excellence, attracting customers from all walks of life. But despite his success, Adam remained deeply connected to his roots, believing that humility and understanding were the keys to true greatness. Yet, life has a way of challenging our ideals. One ordinary morning, Adam received a call from a customer service representative at one of his flagship stores. It was a brief, routine conversation, but something about the tone of her voice hinted at tension. Later that day, Adam was informed by a trusted employee that an incident of discrimination had occurred at the store, involving the manager and a customer who didn't fit the profile of their typical clientele. Adam's heart sank. He had always strived to create a business that embodied inclusivity and fairness. How could such an incident happen under his watch? As he delved deeper into the matter, he discovered that this wasn't an isolated occurrence. Whispers of unfair treatment and subtle biases had been circulating among employees and customers for weeks. For many, this would have been a moment of frustration and perhaps even quiet resignation. After all, addressing systemic issues can seem daunting, but Adam was not one to shy away from challenges. He knew that addressing this issue would require more than a statement or a quick fix. It demanded action, and it had to start with him. Adam decided to visit the store unannounced, but not as himself. He believed that only by experiencing the environment firsthand could he truly understand the depth of the problem. This decision marked the beginning of a journey that would change not only the lives of those involved, but also the culture of his entire organization. As he prepared for his visit, Adam reflected on the stories his parents had shared during his childhood. His father once told him about a neighbor who had lost everything during a financial crisis. While most turned their backs, his father offered a helping hand. Compassion, his father had said, isn't about convenience, it's about courage. Adam realized that this situation called for that very courage, not just to confront prejudice, but to address it with the intention of fostering change. Disguising himself as an average customer, Adam planned his visit carefully. He traded his tailored suits for simple jeans and a worn-out hoodie, blending in with the city's bustling crowd. As he looked at his reflection in the mirror, he saw not just a different version of himself, but also the countless individuals who walked into his stores every day, hoping to be treated with dignity. What Adam didn't anticipate, however, was the emotional weight of this transformation. As he stepped into the store, he was no longer the successful CEO, but just another face in the crowd. And what he experienced next shook him to his core. Adam's determination was now fueled by more than just a desire to rectify the situation. It was personal. He couldn't turn a blind eye to the injustice unfolding before him. He realized that addressing this issue wasn't just about his business reputation. It was about holding up the mirror to society and challenging it to do better. This chapter of Adam's journey serves as a testament to the power of resilience and the importance of confronting uncomfortable truths. It reminds us that the fight against prejudice is not just about reacting to injustice, but about actively seeking to create spaces where fairness and respect can thrive. And as Adam prepared to walk through the doors of his store, his heart was filled with anticipation and resolve. What would he uncover? How would he respond to the challenges ahead? Stay tuned as we delve into the events that unfolded next, revealing not just the depth of the issue, but also the strength of the human spirit in confronting it. Engage with the story in the comments below. What would you do if you faced a similar situation? Let's inspire one another with stories of empathy and change. The morning was brisk as Adam approached the flagship store. Dressed in his worn hoodie, jeans, and a pair of old sneakers, he felt oddly exposed. For someone who had spent years commanding boardrooms and hosting gala events, this modest attire stripped away the veneer of power and status. Yet, that was precisely the point. Today, he wasn't a successful CEO, he was just another customer. One who would walk in unnoticed, a stranger in a world he had built. As he stepped inside, the store's elegance immediately struck him. Gleaming marble floors reflected the light of intricate chandeliers, while rows of meticulously arranged luxury items beckoned to customers. It was the crown jewel of his empire, but Adam's focus wasn't on the decor. His eyes scanned the room for something less tangible, the invisible currents of behavior that defined the customer experience. A polite young associate greeted him at the door, her smile warm and inviting. But as Adam wandered deeper into the store, it didn't take long for the atmosphere to shift. The moment he approached a high-end display, Alfred Osborne, the manager, emerged from behind the counter. With his crisp suit and an air of authority, Alfred exuded confidence, yet it was the kind of confidence that often masked judgment. His gaze flicked over Adam's casual attire, and within seconds, his demeanor changed. "Can I help you?" Alfred's tone was sharp, clipped, and devoid of the warmth Adam had witnessed earlier. There was no mistaking the subtle undertone of condescension. Adam responded calmly, "I'm just browsing, thank you." Alfred lingered, his presence more oppressive than helpful. "Well, some of these items are quite expensive," he said, a faint smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Perhaps I can direct you to something more suitable." The words stung, but Adam kept his composure. He nodded politely and moved to another section of the store, where the dynamic played out again. Associates hesitated to approach him, their eyes darting nervously toward Alfred, as if seeking silent approval. Meanwhile, customers dressed in designer clothing received attentive service and genuine smiles. Adam felt the weight of the disparity, a subtle yet undeniable segregation based on appearance. The breaking point came when Adam overheard Alfred speaking to a colleague. His voice, though hushed, carried enough venom to make Adam's chest tighten. "These people come in thinking they belong here," Alfred scoffed. "It's our job to maintain the brand's exclusivity." Adam turned, catching the astonished glance of the young associate who had greeted him earlier. She looked torn, her lips pressed into a thin line as if she wanted to protest but feared the consequences. In that moment, Adam realized the depth of the problem extended beyond Alfred's personal prejudice. It was a culture of silence that allowed such behavior to persist. Despite the surge of emotions coursing through him, Adam remained outwardly composed. He continued browsing, making mental notes of every interaction, every word, and every subtle cue that painted a picture of exclusion. Each moment reinforced the uncomfortable truth. The very culture he had worked to build, one that was supposed to celebrate inclusivity, had faltered under the weight of unchecked biases. After nearly an hour in the store, Adam approached the counter with an item, a modest accessory that could easily pass as a thoughtful gift. Alfred's expression shifted to thinly veiled irritation as he rang up the purchase. "Will that be all?" he asked curtly. "Yes, thank you," Adam replied, his tone neutral but his mind racing. As he handed over his credit card, Alfred barely glanced at it before sliding it through the reader. He didn't know, of course, that the name on the card, Adam J., belonged to the very person whose name adorned the storefront. Adam took the receipt, thanked Alfred with deliberate politeness, and left the store. Outside, he paused, breathing deeply as he processed what had just transpired. The pain of witnessing such blatant discrimination mingled with a growing sense of determination. He had come seeking the truth, and he had found it, laid bare in every dismissive glance and condescending remark. But now came the harder part, deciding what to do next. This was more than a personal affront. It was a moral imperative. Adam knew that confronting Alfred would not only test his own values, but also serve as a catalyst for change within the company. He thought about the countless customers who might have endured similar treatment, leaving the store with more than just empty hands. They left with the sting of feeling unwelcome, unseen, and unworthy. And he thought of the employees like the young associate, who might have felt powerless to challenge such behavior. Adam resolved to take action, but it wouldn't be out of anger or a desire for retribution. No, his response would be guided by the same principles his parents had taught him: compassion, accountability, and the belief that even those who err can learn and grow. The injustice he had witnessed would not be swept under the rug. Instead, it would become the foundation of a lesson that would ripple far beyond the walls of the store. As Adam walked away, the memory of Alfred's words echoed in his mind. Exclusivity, Alfred had said, as though it were a shield to keep certain people out. But Adam knew better. True luxury wasn't about exclusivity, it was about creating experiences that uplifted everyone, regardless of their background. And with that thought, a plan began to take shape. What would it take to transform not just the attitudes of individuals like Alfred, but the culture of an entire organization? Adam didn't yet have all the answers, but he knew where to start. The next day, he would return to the store, not as a customer but as the CEO. And this time, there would be no disguises, no hesitation, and no room for excuses. The stage was set for a confrontation that would challenge the very foundations of the store's culture. But would Alfred recognize the error of his ways? And could one man's determination truly spark a lasting change? These questions hung in the air as Adam prepared for the next chapter of his journey. A chapter that would test not only his leadership, but also his belief in the power of redemption. The following morning, Adam dressed with care, not in the inconspicuous attire of the previous day, but in the sharp, commanding style that reflected his position. His tailored navy suit, polished shoes, and understated yet elegant tie were more than just clothing. They were symbols of the authority he carried. Yet, beneath the surface, his emotions churned. Today wasn't just about asserting power, it was about holding a mirror up to a broken system and beginning the process of repair. As Adam entered the flagship store, the air seemed to shift. The associates, who had barely acknowledged him the day before, now greeted him with wide smiles and deferential nods. Alfred Osborne was among them, his demeanor polished and professional. He didn't recognize Adam immediately, but his confidence radiated as he managed the floor, barking orders to his staff with the efficiency of someone who believed he was untouchable. Adam allowed himself a moment to observe before making his move. He noted how Alfred interacted with the team, commanding but dismissive, doling out praise sparingly and criticism liberally. The young associate from the previous day caught Adam's eye and offered a hesitant smile, as if remembering his presence. Her unease spoke volumes, reaffirming what Adam already knew. This wasn't just a case of one manager's prejudice. It was a deeper, systemic issue. With steady steps, Adam approached Alfred, who was assisting a well-dressed customer. He waited patiently until the transaction was complete, then cleared his throat. "Alfred Osborne, is it?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Alfred turned, his professional smile faltering as his eyes settled on Adam. There was a flicker of recognition, though Alfred couldn't quite place him. "Yes, that's me. And you are?" "Adam J.," he replied, extending a hand. "I believe you've heard of me." The color drained from Alfred's face as the realization dawned. His handshake was hesitant, his composure slipping. "Mr. J, I wasn't expecting you today." Adam's gaze was steady, unyielding. "Clearly not," he said, his tone neutral. "I'd like to speak with you in private." Alfred nodded quickly, gesturing toward a small office at the back of the store. The walk to the office felt like an eternity for Alfred, who was acutely aware of every pair of eyes on them. Once inside, Adam closed the door and took a seat, allowing the silence to stretch just long enough to make Alfred uncomfortable. "Do you know why I'm here, Alfred?" Adam began, folding his hands on the desk before him. Alfred's eyes darted nervously. I assume it's to check on the store's operations?" Adam's expression didn't waver. "Partially," he said, "but mostly, I'm here because of what I witnessed yesterday. I came into this store, disguised as a customer, and observed firsthand how you and your team interact with people. I need you to explain something to me, Alfred. Why do you believe it's acceptable to treat certain customers differently based on their appearance?" Alfred's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "I'm Mr. J. I assure you, that's not what we do here. There must be some misunderstanding." Adam leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Don't insult my intelligence. I heard your remarks. I saw how you treated me, and I saw how you treated others. You didn't even bother to check the name on my credit card. You assumed I didn't belong here, and you made it very clear." The weight of Adam's words hung in the air, leaving Alfred visibly shaken. He stammered, I didn't mean anything by it. I was just trying to maintain the store's reputation, keep it exclusive." Adam's eyes narrowed. "Exclusive? Let me tell you what true exclusivity is, Alfred. It's about creating an experience so exceptional that every person who walks through those doors feels valued. It's not about excluding people, it's about including them. What you've done here is not just morally wrong, it's a betrayal of everything this brand stands for." Alfred looked down, his hands fidgeting. "I understand, sir. I'll do better. I'm not interested in empty promises," Adam said firmly. "What I want to know is whether you're willing to confront your biases and change. Because let me be clear, Alfred, there is no room in this company for discrimination of any kind." For the first time, Alfred met Adam's gaze directly. There was a flicker of something, shame perhaps, or the faint beginnings of understanding. "I'll do whatever it takes to make this right," he said quietly. Adam studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Good. Because this isn't just about you. It's about the culture you've fostered here. I'll be implementing new policies and training programs across the company, starting with this store. And you, Alfred, will be the first to undergo this process. If you can't commit to it, there's no place for you here." Alfred swallowed hard, his posture stiff. "I'll do it," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. Adam stood, signaling the end of their conversation. "We'll see," he said simply. Actions speak louder than words. As he left the office, Adam felt a mix of emotions: relief that the confrontation had happened, frustration at how deeply rooted the problem was, and hope that this could be the start of meaningful change. He gathered the store's employees for a brief meeting, outlining his expectations and emphasizing the importance of treating every customer with respect. The young associate who had smiled at him the day before looked particularly moved, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Walking out of the store, Adam knew the road ahead would be challenging. Changing a culture required more than words. It demanded consistent effort, accountability, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. But as he stepped into the sunlight, he felt a sense of purpose. This was his chance to lead by example, to transform not just his business, but also the lives it touched. Yet, the question lingered: could Alfred truly change, or would he remain entrenched in his ways? And how would the rest of the company respond to the changes Adam was about to implement? These uncertainties loomed as Adam prepared to take his next steps, determined to turn this moment into a movement for compassion and equality. The day after his confrontation with Alfred, Adam sat in his office, gazing out the window. The city bustled below him, unaware of the storm of emotions churning within. He had the power to make a decisive move, to remove Alfred from his position and send a clear message about the consequences of prejudice. Many in his shoes would see it as the obvious choice, a swift and just resolution to an unacceptable situation. But Adam's thoughts wandered elsewhere, guided by the lessons instilled in him since childhood. Adam's father had often shared a story about a neighbor, a bitter and prejudiced man who'd been shunned by most in the community. Rather than joining the ostracism, Adam's father had taken it upon himself to befriend the man, inviting him over for meals and listening to his struggles. Over time, that man's hardened heart began to soften, his views evolving as he experienced kindness he hadn't known before. Sometimes, his father would say, "The best way to fight ignorance is with understanding." This memory lingered as Adam reflected on Alfred. He knew fire in him would be the easier path. But would it address the root of the problem? Prejudice wasn't born in a vacuum. It was taught, perpetuated, and reinforced by ignorance and fear. What if, instead of punishment, Adam chose a path of education and rehabilitation? The idea was bold, unconventional, and fraught with risks, but it aligned with Adam's core belief. People were capable of change when given the opportunity. The decision was made. Adam summoned Alfred to his office the following morning. When Alfred arrived, he looked wary, his posture rigid and his gaze uncertain. He'd spent the night dreading this meeting, convinced it would end with his dismissal. "Have a seat," Adam said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. He folded his hands, his expression unreadable. "I've given a lot of thought to what happened at the store and your role in it." Alfred swallowed hard. "I understand, sir. I take full responsibility for my actions. If you've decided to let me go, I won't argue." Adam shook his head slowly. "That's not what I've decided. Firing you might make a statement, but it won't solve the larger issue. Instead, I'm giving you a choice." Alfred's brow furrowed in confusion. "A choice? You can resign, walk away from this company, and leave behind everything you've built here. Or you can stay, but staying comes with conditions. You will undergo a rigorous training program designed to confront and dismantle your biases. You'll participate in every diversity and inclusion initiative we roll out, not as a passive observer, but as an active contributor. You'll work to rebuild the trust you've lost with your team and our customers. And most importantly, you'll commit to becoming a leader who embodies the values this company stands for: respect, equality, and compassion." Alfred blinked, his expression a mixture of disbelief and uncertainty. You're giving me another chance?" "I'm giving you the opportunity to prove you can change," Adam clarified. "But make no mistake, Alfred, this isn't a free pass. This will be the hardest work you've ever done. It will require honesty, humility, and the willingness to confront parts of yourself you may not like. If you're not willing to do that, then there's no place for you here." The room fell silent as Alfred absorbed Adam's words. For a man accustomed to wielding authority, the prospect of such intense introspection was daunting. But beneath the fear, there was a glimmer of something else: hope. For all his flaws, Alfred wasn't devoid of self-awareness. He knew he had made mistakes, and deep down, he wanted the chance to make amends. "I'll do it," Alfred said finally, his voice quiet but resolute. "I'll do whatever it takes." Adam nodded, his expression softening. "Good. Then we'll begin immediately." Over the following weeks, Alfred embarked on a journey that tested him in ways he hadn't anticipated. The training sessions were intense, led by experts who didn't shy away from difficult conversations. Alfred was required to listen to the stories of colleagues and customers who had faced discrimination. Their experiences raw and unfiltered. He participated in role-playing exercises that forced him to step into the shoes of those he had marginalized. He read books and watched documentaries that challenged his worldview, dismantling the stereotypes he had long taken for granted. At times, the process was overwhelming. Alfred often found himself questioning not just his actions, but the beliefs he had inherited from his upbringing. There were moments of defensiveness, frustration, and even tears. But there were also moments of clarity when he began to see the world through a new lens. Slowly, the walls of ignorance and prejudice began to crumble, replaced by a growing sense of empathy and accountability. Adam, meanwhile, kept a close eye on Alfred's progress. He met with him regularly, not to criticize or micromanage, but to offer guidance and encouragement. "Change is hard," he told Alfred during one of their meetings. "It's uncomfortable and it doesn't happen overnight. But the fact that you're still here, still trying, that says something." The transformation wasn't immediate, nor was it complete, but Alfred's efforts didn't go unnoticed. His colleagues began to see subtle shifts in his behavior, a willingness to listen, a gentler tone, a genuine interest in their perspectives. Customers who had once felt alienated found a warmer, more inclusive environment in the store. And while Alfred still had a long way to go, the seeds of change had been planted. By choosing the harder path, Adam had taken a gamble, but it was one that aligned with his belief in the power of education and empathy. Alfred's journey was far from over, but the steps he had taken were a testament to the potential for growth and redemption. And as Adam watched the ripple effects of this decision spread throughout his company, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Would Alfred's transformation inspire others to confront their own biases? Could this experiment in empathy become a model for addressing prejudice on a larger scale? These questions lingered as Adam prepared to take his mission beyond the walls of his store, determined to turn one man's redemption into a movement for lasting change. Weeks turned into months, and the air inside the flagship store began to feel different. What had once been a space clouded by judgment and silent tensions now carried an undercurrent of curiosity and tentative optimism. The transformation wasn't magical or instant, it was earned, one deliberate choice at a time. At the heart of it all was Alfred Osborne, a man grappling with his flaws and determined to become better. Alfred's journey was far from smooth. Early on, his attempts to connect with the staff often felt awkward, even forced. Employees who had once feared his sharp tone and dismissive remarks were now watching cautiously, waiting to see if his efforts were genuine or merely a performance. To Alfred's credit, he acknowledged their skepticism with humility. "I know I have a lot to prove," he admitted during a staff meeting, "but I'm here to learn, I'm here to listen, and I'm here to change." The turning point came during one of the company's new diversity and inclusion workshops. The session featured a guest speaker, a former customer who had experienced discrimination at the store. Her story was powerful and unflinching, recounting how a single dismissive interaction had made her question her own worth. "I wasn't angry," she said, her voice steady but emotional. "I was hurt that I wasn't seen for who I am, only for what I appeared to be." The words struck Alfred like a blow. He realized, perhaps for the first time, the ripple effect of his actions. It wasn't just about missed sales or tarnished reputations. It was about the human cost of prejudice. That evening, Alfred stayed long after the store had closed, sitting alone in his office as he replayed the woman's words in his mind. For years, he had justified his behavior as maintaining standards. Now he saw it for what it was, a failure to live up to the values he claimed to hold. Determined to do more, Alfred began seeking out opportunities to grow. He volunteered to mentor new hires, using his own mistakes as teaching moments. He initiated weekly meetings with his team, encouraging open dialogue and constructive feedback. And perhaps most importantly, he made a conscious effort to treat every customer who walked through the doors with genuine warmth and respect, regardless of their appearance. Slowly but surely, the store's culture began to shift. Employees who had once avoided Alfred now found themselves drawn to his sincerity. The young associate who had first greeted Adam during his undercover visit became one of Alfred's biggest supporters, often offering him insights and encouragement. "You're trying," she told him one day, "and that means something." Customers, too, began to notice the changes. One regular patron, an elderly woman who had frequented the store for years, remarked to Alfred, "You seem different lately, kinder." Her words, simple as they were, filled Alfred with a sense of pride he hadn't felt in a long time. Meanwhile, Adam observed these developments from a distance, careful not to interfere. He knew that true transformation couldn't be micromanaged. It had to come from within. Still, he made it a point to check in with Alfred regularly, offering guidance and support when needed. "You're doing good work," he told Alfred during one such meeting. "But remember, this isn't about redemption. It's about creating a legacy you can be proud of." Alfred took those words to heart. He began to see his role not just as a manager, but as a leader, someone who could inspire and uplift those around him. He started small, writing personalized thank you notes to employees who went above and beyond. He also championed initiatives to make the store more inclusive, such as hiring a more diverse staff and redesigning the sales floor to be more welcoming to all customers. The impact of these changes rippled outward, touching everyone who entered the store. Employees who had once felt marginalized found their voices, contributing ideas and perspectives that enriched the business. Customers who had once hesitated to shop there now praised the store as a beacon of warmth and professionalism. And Alfred, once the source of so much discord, became a symbol of what was possible when someone committed to personal growth. One of the most poignant moments came during the annual company awards ceremony. Adam, as the keynote speaker, took the stage to address the room filled with employees from across the organization. He spoke about the importance of empathy, the courage it took to confront one's flaws, and the power of collective change. Then, to everyone's surprise, he called Alfred to the stage. "Alfred Osborne," Adam began, his voice resonating with emotion, "is proof that change is possible, not just for individuals, but for entire communities. He chose the harder path, the path of reflection, accountability, and growth. And in doing so, he has helped us all become better." The applause was thunderous as Alfred stood beside Adam, his expression a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. In that moment, he realized that his journey wasn't just about redemption. It was about inspiring others to embark on their own paths of transformation. But the journey didn't end there. Alfred's newfound perspective would be tested in ways he hadn't yet imagined. The lessons he had learned would need to extend beyond the confines of the store, shaping the very fabric of the company and influencing the lives of countless others. What challenges lay ahead? And how would Alfred's transformation continue to ripple outward, touching the hearts and minds of those he encountered? The answers would unfold in the next chapter, as the story of compassion and change moved onto a larger stage. The transformation within the flagship store was only the beginning. Adam J. knew that meaningful change couldn't remain confined to a single location. It had to ripple across the entire organization. Inspired by Alfred's progress and the newfound sense of inclusivity at the flagship, Adam began to craft a company-wide initiative that would redefine not just the way his business operated, but also how it influenced the broader industry. Sitting in his office late one evening, Adam drafted the blueprint for what he called the Empathy in Action program. At its core, this initiative would prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion, not as corporate buzzwords, but as foundational principles. The program would encompass mandatory training for all employees, ongoing community engagement projects, and a commitment to hiring practices that reflected the diversity of the communities they served. The first step was to gather the company's senior leaders for an urgent meeting. As Adam presented his vision, he was met with a mix of enthusiasm, curiosity, and predictably, skepticism. A few executives raised concerns about the costs and logistics of such a large-scale undertaking. "How will this impact our bottom line?" one of them asked. Adam leaned forward, his voice steady but impassioned. "What's the cost of doing nothing? Every act of exclusion, every instance of prejudice, chips away at our integrity and our ability to connect with customers. This isn't just about profits, it's about principles. And when we lead with those, the results will follow." To emphasize his point, Adam shared the story of his undercover visit to the flagship store. The room fell silent as he recounted Alfred's behavior, the reactions of the staff, and the sting of experiencing discrimination firsthand. By the time he finished, there wasn't a single dissenting voice. With the leadership on board, the next phase involved rolling out the Empathy in Action program across all locations. The initiative began with comprehensive training workshops that went beyond surface-level platitudes. Led by experts in psychology, sociology, and organizational behavior, the sessions delved into the roots of bias, the impact of microaggressions, and the importance of fostering authentic connections. Employees participated in exercises designed to challenge their perspectives, such as stepping into the shoes of marginalized individuals and engaging in open, judgment-free discussions. One particularly impactful session featured employees sharing personal stories of discrimination or exclusion they had faced, both within and outside of the company. These raw, heartfelt accounts brought tears to many eyes and created a sense of unity that transcended titles and roles. As one associate put it, "For the first time, I feel seen, not just as an employee, but as a person." Alfred, true to his word, became one of the program's most active participants. His story of transformation served as both a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope, illustrating that change was possible for anyone willing to put in the effort. He often spoke at training sessions, candidly admitting his past mistakes and sharing the lessons he had learned. "I'm not proud of who I was," he told a room full of employees during one session, "but I'm proud of who I'm becoming. And if I can change, so can all of us." Beyond training, the Empathy in Action program extended into the communities where the company operated. Stores partnered with local organizations to host events promoting inclusion, such as workshops for underserved youth, mentorship programs for aspiring professionals, and town hall meetings that encouraged open dialogue about social issues. These efforts not only strengthened the company's reputation but also created lasting bonds with customers who saw the brand as a genuine ally. Adam also implemented structural changes within the organization to ensure the program's success. A diversity council was established to oversee the initiative, monitor progress, and provide guidance. Employee resource groups were formed to give underrepresented voices a platform and a support network. And performance evaluations for managers now included metrics related to their contributions to fostering an inclusive workplace. The impact of these efforts soon became evident. Sales began to rise, fueled by a surge of loyal customers who appreciated the company's authenticity and commitment to positive change. Employee satisfaction scores reached new highs, with associates reporting a greater sense of belonging and purpose. And the company began attracting top talent, drawn not just by competitive salaries, but by the chance to work for a brand that aligned with their values. Despite the progress, the journey was not without its challenges. Some employees resisted the changes, viewing them as unnecessary or intrusive. A handful of managers struggled to adapt, clinging to outdated mindsets that clashed with the company's new direction. But Adam remained steadfast, addressing concerns with patience while holding firm to the program's principles. "Change is uncomfortable," he reminded his team during one particularly tense meeting. "But growth doesn't happen in comfort zones." As the Empathy in Action program gained momentum, it began to attract attention beyond the company's walls. Media outlets covered the initiative, highlighting its innovative approach to addressing prejudice in the workplace. Industry peers reached out to Adam for advice, eager to implement similar programs in their own organizations. And invitations poured in for Adam to speak at conferences and events, where he shared his vision for a more compassionate and equitable future. At one such event, Adam delivered a keynote address that resonated deeply with the audience. "Empathy is the bridge between us," he said. "It's what allows us to see the humanity in each other, to move beyond fear and prejudice, and to create spaces where everyone can thrive. It's not just a business strategy, it's a moral imperative." The applause that followed was thunderous, but Adam knew there was still work to be done. The fight against prejudice and inequality was a lifelong endeavor, one that required vigilance, humility, and the courage to confront uncomfortable truths. Yet, as he looked out at the sea of faces inspired by his words, he felt a profound sense of hope. Would the changes Adam had implemented continue to ripple outward, touching lives far beyond the company's reach? Could the Empathy in Action program become a blueprint for a more inclusive world? These questions lingered as Adam prepared for the next phase of his journey, a phase that would test not only his resolve, but also the lasting impact of the values he had fought so hard to uphold. The changes Adam J. introduced began as a small current within his company, but like any powerful wave, they soon rippled outward, reaching places even he couldn't have predicted. The Empathy in Action program became the foundation for a cultural shift that extended beyond the walls of his stores, influencing the lives of employees, customers, and the wider community. Within the company, the results were transformative. Employees who once kept their heads down, fearful of rocking the boat, began to speak up with confidence. Associates shared stories of how the training sessions had opened their eyes to experiences they'd never considered before. One cashier, a young man named Luis, spoke about how the program had helped him understand his own unconscious biases. "I didn't realize how often I judged people by appearances," he admitted during a team meeting. "But now I catch myself. I stop, I think, and it's changed the way I see the world." Managers across the company adopted the new guidelines with varying degrees of enthusiasm. But over time, even the most reluctant found themselves embracing the change. Some, like Alfred Osborne, became champions of the movement, using their personal transformations as proof of what was possible. Others were inspired by the camaraderie and shared purpose that the program had fostered, which brought a renewed sense of pride and motivation to their roles. Perhaps the most surprising impact was on the customers. Word of Adam's efforts spread quickly, fueled by glowing testimonials from those who had experienced the changes firsthand. Social media posts showcasing acts of kindness and inclusivity at his stores went viral, drawing widespread praise. One particularly touching story came from a single mother, who shared how an associate had gone above and beyond to help her find a suitable gift for her daughter. "I've never felt so cared for in a store," she wrote. "They treated me like I mattered." These stories created a groundswell of support for Adam's brand, turning his stores into more than just places to shop. They became symbols of respect and compassion. Customers began to flock to the stores, not only for their high-quality products, but also for the way they made people feel. Sales soared, but more importantly, so did the company's reputation as a leader in social responsibility. Outside the company, the ripple effect grew even larger. Adam's willingness to share his journey openly, including the missteps and challenges, inspired other businesses to follow suit. CEOs reached out to Adam, seeking advice on how to implement similar programs in their own organizations. Some even invited him to collaborate on industry-wide initiatives aimed at promoting inclusivity and combating prejudice. At the same time, the program sparked conversations in unexpected places. Community leaders began referencing Adam's story in their efforts to address local issues of discrimination. Schools invited him to speak to students about empathy and the importance of seeing the world through others' eyes. Nonprofit organizations sought partnerships, eager to amplify the impact of his message. One of the most profound moments came during a town hall meeting organized by a civic group. A young woman stood up to share her story. She explained that she had grown up in an environment where biases were ingrained from an early age. "I didn't think people could change," she said, her voice trembling. "But when I heard about what Mr. J did, how he didn't just fire someone for being wrong, but chose to help them grow, it gave me hope. It made me believe that maybe I could change too." Adam listened to her words, his heart heavy yet hopeful. He realized that the ripple effect wasn't just about policies or program. It was about creating moments of connection and inspiration that could touch lives in ways he'd never imagined. Each story, each individual who chose a path of understanding over judgment, was another stone in the foundation of a better future. Back at the flagship store, Alfred continued his journey of transformation. He became a mentor to new managers, guiding them through the challenges of leadership with a focus on empathy and fairness. Employees who had once viewed him with suspicion now turned to him for advice, recognizing the sincerity of his efforts. And while Alfred still had moments of doubt and missteps along the way, his progress was undeniable. He had not only earned the respect of his team, but had also become a role model for others in the company. As the months went by, Adam began to see the broader implications of what he had set in motion. The ripple effect wasn't just about improving his company. It was about changing the narrative. It was about proving that businesses could thrive without sacrificing their values, that leaders could address prejudice with compassion instead of punishment, and that even the most entrenched biases could be challenged and overcome. But the ripple effect also posed questions that Adam couldn't ignore. How far could this movement go? What more could he do to ensure that the momentum continued to build, not just within his company, but in society at large? And how could he inspire others to carry the torch, creating a lasting legacy of empathy and change? These questions lingered as Adam prepared for the next phase of his journey. He knew that the work was far from over and that the challenges ahead would be even greater. But as he looked around at the lives already touched by his efforts, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The ripple effect was real, and it was growing. The question now was how far it could reach and what difference it could make in the world. As the sun set over the city skyline, casting a golden hue across the bustling streets, Adam J. sat in quiet reflection. The journey he had embarked upon, sparked by a single act of discrimination, had evolved into a transformative movement within his company and beyond. Yet, amidst the progress and accolades, Adam felt a profound responsibility to share the deeper lessons he had learned. Narrative that transcended corporate success and delved into the essence of human connection. Invitations to speak at conferences, universities, and community events poured in, each seeking insights into the Empathy in Action program and the remarkable turnaround of his company's culture. Adam accepted these opportunities, not to showcase his achievements, but to illuminate the path others could tread toward empathy, inclusion, and societal betterment. Standing before a diverse audience at a renowned university, Adam began his address with a story from his childhood, a time when he first encountered prejudice and the sting of exclusion. He recounted how those early experiences had shaped his resolve to build a business founded on respect and equality. "I was determined," he said, "that no one who walked through the doors of my establishment would ever feel the way I did as a child." He spoke candidly about the challenges he faced as a Black entrepreneur in an industry rife with systemic biases. Building his luxury empire had not been without obstacles, but he had persevered, driven by a vision of what could be achieved through hard work and unwavering principles. Yet, the incident with Alfred Osborne had been a stark reminder that success did not render one immune to prejudice. Adam detailed the undercover visit to his own store, the painful realization of the discrimination that persisted within his ranks, and the pivotal decision to address the issue through education rather than punishment. He described the development and implementation of the Empathy in Action program, emphasizing that it was not a mere corporate initiative, but a manifestation of his core belief in the transformative power of empathy. Empathy, he asserted, is not a passive sentiment. It is an active choice, a commitment to understand, to connect, and to uplift. It requires courage to confront our own biases and humility to learn from the experiences of others. The audience listened intently as Adam shared anecdotes of employees whose lives had been changed by the program. He spoke of Luz, the young cashier who had recognized and addressed his unconscious biases, and of Alfred, whose journey from prejudice to advocacy had become a testament to the potential for personal growth. These stories, rich with human emotion and resilience, resonated deeply, illustrating that the principles of empathy and inclusion were not abstract ideals but attainable realities. Adam also addressed the broader impact of the program on the company's performance. He presented data showing increased employee satisfaction, higher customer loyalty, and improved financial metrics. However, he was quick to note that these outcomes, while gratifying, were secondary to the primary goal of fostering a culture where every individual felt valued and respected. Success, he remarked, is not solely measured by profit margins or market share. It is measured by the positive impact we have on the lives of others, the legacy we create through our actions, and the values we uphold. Throughout his speech, Adam interwove technical insights into the development of the program, discussing the methodologies employed in the training sessions, the metrics used to assess progress, and the strategies for scaling the initiative across multiple locations. He provided a comprehensive overview of the challenges encountered, including resistance from certain quarters, and the solutions devised to overcome them. This detailed exposition offered the audience practical guidance on implementing similar programs within their own organizations. As he concluded, Adam posed a reflective question to the audience. In the face of injustice, how will you respond? Will you turn a blind eye, or will you take action to effect change? He urged them to embrace empathy as a guiding principle, to challenge prejudices within themselves and their communities, and to recognize the profound impact that individual actions could have on the collective well-being of society. The room erupted in applause, but Adams as Adam J. continued to share his story. The impact reached far beyond what he could have anticipated. At every speaking engagement, in every interview, and across countless conversations, one central idea resonated deeply. Change begins with a choice. Yet, Adam was keenly aware that telling his story wasn't enough. If lasting change was to take root, it needed to live in the hearts and actions of everyone who heard his message. Standing on the stage of a packed auditorium one evening, Adam felt the weight of this challenge more acutely than ever. The room was alive with anticipation. Thousands of faces turned toward him, each carrying their own stories, struggles, and hopes. For many in the audience, Adam wasn't just a successful businessman. He was a symbol of what could be achieved when courage met compassion. He began his address with a question that hung heavy in the air. What will you do when faced with injustice? The room fell silent. Adam let the question linger, his gaze sweeping across the crowd. Because let me tell you, he continued, the fight against prejudice isn't fought in grand gestures or on distant battlefields. It's fought in the everyday moments, in the small decisions we make about how we treat one another, about what we stand for, and about what we're willing to challenge. Adam's voice, calm but unwavering, carried the weight of lived experience. He recounted once again the story of his undercover visit to his store and the chain of events it had set in motion. I didn't set out to change the world that day, he admitted. I just wanted to understand. But understanding, my friends, is where change begins. He shifted his tone, drawing the audience in as though he were speaking to each person individually. Now I want to talk about you, because this isn't just my story, it's yours, too. Each of you has the power to create ripples of change, just like the ones we've seen in my company. But it starts with a choice. Will you turn away when you see someone treated unfairly? Or will you step forward, even when it's uncomfortable? Will you challenge the biases within yourself, even when it's hard? These aren't rhetorical questions. They're challenges I'm placing before you, right here, right now. The audience was captivated, their silence a testament to the gravity of his words. Adam continued, weaving in examples from his journey that illustrated the profound impact of small, deliberate actions. He spoke of Alfred Osborne's transformation, reminding the audience that even those who seemed entrenched in their prejudices could change when given the tools and support to do so. If Alfred could grow, if he could turn his mistakes into a platform for compassion, then why can't the rest of us? Adam then introduced a simple but powerful call to action. Every one of you can do something today to make a difference. Start small. Have a conversation with someone who sees the world differently than you do. Speak up when you witness an act of discrimination. Educate yourself about the experiences of those who are marginalized. And most importantly, lead with empathy in everything you do. He paused, letting the words sink in before delivering the next part of his message. I'm not asking you to be perfect. None of us are. But I am asking you to be intentional, to recognize that your actions, no matter how small, have the power to create change. And when enough of us make that choice, those small actions become a force that can transform communities, industries, even the world. The applause that followed was thunderous, but Adam wasn't finished. He stepped closer to the edge of the stage, his expression earnest. So I leave you with this challenge. Don't let this moment end here. When you walk out of these doors tonight, carry this message with you. Let it guide the way you treat your coworkers, your friends, your family, and even strangers. Because the world doesn't change on its own. It changes because of people like you, people who choose to make it better. As the applause swelled once more, Adam felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had planted a seed in the hearts of everyone in that room. And though he couldn't predict how it would grow, he trusted in the potential of human goodness. The challenge he had issued was not an end, it was a beginning. a call to action that would ripple outward in ways he could only imagine. After the event, Adam lingered to meet with attendees, listening to their reflections and answering their questions. One young man approached him, his voice trembling with emotion. "Your story gave me the courage to stand up for someone at work today," he said. "I've always been afraid of speaking out, but you made me realize it's worth it." Adam placed a reassuring hand on the man's shoulder. "It is worth it," he said. "And you've already started something important. Keep going." As Adam drove home that night, he thought about the countless individuals who had been touched by his story and the responsibility that came with inspiring change. The challenge he had posed was as much for himself as it was for others. After all, the work of building a better world never truly ends. It is a journey, not a destination. What would come of the seeds he had sown? Would they take root, sprouting new acts of kindness, courage, and empathy? Adam didn't have all the answers, but he knew one thing for certain: the choice to act, to lead with compassion, and to confront injustice would always be worth it. And so, he pressed forward, ready to continue the work of not just changing minds, but transforming hearts. The challenge was out there, and the ripples had only just begun. Years passed, and the story of Adam J. and his transformative journey became more than just a tale shared in business circles or at conferences. It became a beacon of hope for anyone striving to make a difference in the face of adversity. What had started as a single man's response to injustice had grown into a movement that spanned industries, communities, and even generations. The Empathy in Action program was now a staple not only within Adam's company, but also in organizations worldwide. Businesses, schools, and nonprofit organizations adopted the framework, each tailoring it to their unique environments while keeping its core principles intact. It was no longer just about addressing prejudice in the workplace. It had evolved into a blueprint for building cultures of inclusion and respect wherever human interactions occurred. Adam himself had stepped back from the daily operations of his company, entrusting the leadership to a new generation of executives who shared his vision and values. Instead, he dedicated his time to advocacy, mentoring leaders, and collaborating with changemakers across the globe. His schedule was filled with speaking engagements, workshops, and consultations, but his approach remained deeply personal. To Adam, every conversation was an opportunity to plant seeds of understanding, to inspire action, and to reaffirm his belief in the power of empathy. The impact of his work could be felt in countless ways. Employees at his former stores spoke of how the changes in company culture had transformed not only their professional lives, but also their personal outlooks. Customers wrote letters thanking Adam for creating spaces where they felt seen and valued. And leaders who had implemented the Empathy in Action program in their own organizations shared stories of improved morale, increased collaboration, and renewed purpose. One of the most profound moments of Adam's journey came during a gala event celebrating his contributions to social progress. The room was filled with people whose lives he had touched: employees, customers, community leaders, and even former critics who had been won over by his unwavering commitment to his ideals. As Adam took the stage to deliver his remarks, the applause was deafening, a testament to the enduring impact of his work. "I stand here tonight," Adam began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "not as a man who has all the answers, but as someone who believes in the potential of every individual to create change. This journey has taught me that the greatest legacies aren't built on wealth or accolades. They're built on the lives we touch, the bridges we build, and the compassion we show." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. "The truth is, I didn't set out to create a legacy. I simply wanted to make things right, to address an injustice I could no longer ignore. But what I've learned along the way is that every act of kindness, every effort to understand, every choice to lead with empathy, it all adds up. It creates ripples that reach farther than we can imagine." As Adam continued, he reflected on the lessons he had learned from those who had been part of his journey. From the young associate who had shown quiet strength in the face of prejudice, to Alfred Osborne, whose transformation had inspired so many. "Change is possible," Adam said, his voice firm. not just for individuals, but for entire systems, communities, and generations. But it starts with each of us making the choice to see the humanity in others, to challenge our biases, and to build a world where everyone is treated with dignity. The audience rose to their feet, the applause thunderous, but Adam's focus remained on the people before him. To him, this wasn't the end of a journey, it was another step forward, a reminder that the work of building a more equitable world never truly ends. In the years that followed, Adam's story became a source of inspiration for countless people. Schools taught it as part of lessons on ethics and leadership. Entrepreneurs cited it as a model for building businesses with purpose. And communities around the world embraced its message, using it to foster dialogue, healing, and connection. As Adam entered the later years of his life, he often reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point, the challenges he had faced, the mistakes he had made, and the victories he had celebrated, all wove together into a tapestry of purpose and meaning. He took comfort in knowing that the seeds he had sown would continue to grow, nurtured by the countless individuals who had taken up his call to action. One day, as he sat in his garden, surrounded by the vibrant colors of blooming flowers, Adam received a letter from a young man named Jordan. The letter described how Jordan had been inspired by Adam's story to start a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting empathy and inclusion in schools. "Your journey," Jordan wrote, "reminded me that even one person can make a difference. Thank you for showing me what's possible." Adam smiled as he read the words, his heart swelling with pride and gratitude. The letter was a reminder that his legacy wasn't about the programs he had created or the speeches he had given. It was about the lives he had touched and the hope he had inspired. And so, Adam J's story came full circle. From a young man with a dream, to a leader confronting prejudice, to a mentor inspiring others. His journey was a testament to the power of empathy to transform lives and shape a better world. His legacy was one of hope, compassion, and the unshakable belief that change begins with a single, courageous step. Now, it's your turn. If Adam's story resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. What can you do today to make the world a more compassionate place? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story inspiring, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content that uplifts and empowers. Together, we can continue the work of building a legacy of hope for generations to come.